This program proudly brought to you by Centrebet. No other bookie offers a tote guarantee on your fixed odds bets.
I'm going to call you an Aussie. Does that offend you?
No, not at all. Not at all. Look, I've been here since '99. Living here full time. I started off in Adelaide. It was '96 that I was sort of had approaches from owners that had horses to work in New Zealand that, with the state money going the way it was there, they really wanted to relocate, and it was either get my licence over here or lose the owners and horses. So started off in Adelaide, and then I think after Second Coming won the Derby in '97, I got boxes here. I think we had about 20, which Gay Waterhouse has now got, and I had plans to build on out. There was a little bit of room there to build on, and we probably needed more boxes. So I had a meeting organised with the VRC, and when I got up there, I was quite shocked. They actually offered me this property here as John Maher was moving to Singapore, and they gave me 24 hours to make my mind up because there were people queued up, and I was lucky enough to have the first option on the place. So I gave it a quick thought, and even though I didn't have enough horses to fill the 65 boxes up that were here at the time, decided that I'd have a crack, and moved over here myself in '99 full time.
Well, your place in history is already assured because of the Melbourne Cup. A couple of other horses I want to talk to you about, and one's more an incident than a horse. She won 2 Group 1s. She won a Queensland Oaks and won a Coolmore, and that's Eskimo Queen. But take me through the day that she was scratched at the barrier in the Caulfield Cup.
Well, I remember Greg Childs telling me that he was around the gates, didn't ride her obviously, Craig Dewitt was on her, but he said the comments from the jockeys that saw her around the gates just couldn't believe she was just, again, cut out of chocolate that day, spot on. We were really confident we'd win the race, really confident. And what actually happened there, she took a place, big loop in the reins, lovely quiet mare, and with the blinkers on, and of course they had Mel even in early, and because he drew barrier 1, and he obviously got to the stage he panicked in there, started thrashing around. He took one big dive at the gates. She thought the gates were opening, and Craig said he was just sitting on her there just asleep, and she charged the gates thinking they were opening, and she bounced off and fell over basically. So really disappointed for the owners. Then she got hooked up in the gates, thrashed around, got hooked up. Even though she won a Group 1 after that, she was never quite the same.
Yeah.
She always walked behind as really given her pelvis a stretch. And to see her there lying there hooked up in the gates was horrific for the owners and myself, and really disappointing because that was the race that we really had aimed her at, and we were pretty confident we'd win it too, so very disappointing. But that's racing, as they say. I know it's not nice, but it was a disappointing day, certainly. Would
a horse by the name of Excellent be the best horse you've ever trained? He won a New Zealand Derby at only his 3rd start. In fact, I think by 6 starts he'd already won 3 Group 1s. Yeah. What an extraordinary talent.
Yeah, look, he was a freak. Certainly the best horse I've trained. Probably just him and then Happy and You Know It, the 2 best I've trained. And Excellent just had... he won his first start, slightly shin sore, and we ran over a mile first start, and he missed the jump by 8 or 9 lengths, ran off right to the outside fence. The camera people were jumping down because they thought that he was going to run into them, and he still got up and won. And I've never seen a performance like that from a maiden, and as raw as what he was. We then ran him about 3 weeks later. He was a really frail horse, and I think 3 weeks later against the older horses, and just in a ratings race at Ellerslie where the Derby was about to be run, and he beat them. And then we were straight to the Derby without a run for 5 weeks, and we didn't have a saddle on his back for the last 5 because he pulled a muscle behind, and we thought we were going to make the Derby. So we had Andrew Scott, who was my training partner at the time. He walked and walked and walked him, and vets trot him up, said no, he's fine to run. So we ran him in the Derby, and then he just put on an amazing performance and just buried them. And very hard for a horse to do that after just that amount of those amount of starts, having them spaced and hadn't had a run for 5 weeks, and then I knew then how good he was. And then of course we beat the older horse at Wait for Age in the autumn, and but his performance to win the 1400 metre Group 1 was the one, because I blame myself a little bit. I went back to New Zealand, watched them work. I told Andrew Scott that I want to change all the feeding regime to Australian feed, because we're tripping a lot of horses backwards and forwards, and we just got a little bit apart on how we were feeding them. So I changed the feeding about a month before that Mudgeway, and he wasn't eating it excellent at all. I got back there and he was very light, very woolly, hadn't turned in the coat, and looked terrible. The horse went down to Hastings. We thought he was absolutely no chance of winning, and he put up a freakish performance to win. Ran 120 for 1400. He gave us potential, I think 6 lengths at the 200, and just ran past her and gave her coal, basically. So I don't think I've ever seen, in my opinion, a performance like it. And from a horse I knew was on it, down and out. Just hadn't eaten, looked terrible, just hadn't come up, and I was really concerned. And to see him do that was unbelievable. And then he didn't run again for another month. Straight to 2,000 metres and won that as well.
Straight to the Celt.
Straight to the Celt,
and then you brought him here.
Yeah.
And into a Cox plate, and it's the most famous photo of all the Cox plates, I think.
Yeah.
The Makybe Diva Cox plate, where Michael Coleman decided. I think he was the one that triggered the whole 5, 6, 7 wide.
He was to a degree, but he's a bit unlucky, Michael. At the time, he was riding under instructions. He was, because we really thought that we're the only one that could beat the mare.
Yeah,
and
I think everyone thought that, didn't they?
We really thought that, and that we'd aimed to get him here for that race. He's a bit unlucky because he came out half a horse to have a little bit of a look, and the rider of God's Own went straight on his neck and pushed him off the track.
Right.
And he had no option but to get going then. He wasn't going to, but he then was out in no man's land, and he had to get going.
So he got going, everyone got going.
Everyone got going. They saw him coming, and everyone got going, and of course he had no hope from there. And that, but now I think back about the preparation and the great race he went in the Melbourne Cup, because he lost the plate and pulled up pretty gingerly afterwards, and he had really only had a 1400 metres, won 2000, and then I think 3 weeks later the Cox plate straight in the Melbourne Cup. Hadn't really had a Melbourne Cup preparation, but that was just how good he was, and he went a great race in the Melbourne Cup and that, and then, of course, from there on, we were getting ready for Dubai. Dubai just sent us an invitation to there, and the day they sent it to us on the Friday, we took him to Tirapa to gallop him, getting ready for the first Group 1 race there, and he bowed his tendon, galloping in between races, and then he bowed his other tendon in a paddock.
Yep.
So just everything went wrong with him, and then we did the operation. He went through the rehab. We got him back, and look, I didn't think he could win first up at all. And that's another race I wish I'd gone back for, because my dad was telling me that he thought it was the best performance he's seen on a race course since kindergarten in his younger days, and I wish I was there, because he got a standing ovation, to see what he'd gone through and come back and just blouse him that day as well. Then he suffered his first defeat. Sir Slick beat him. And then I was there the day that he broke down, when he won the Trentham Stakes there.
He obviously got a very special part in your heart.
Oh, yeah. Look, to have a horse with that much potential, I think he had 13 lifetime starts and won 8 of them. To have a horse that good, and he was world class.
Yeah.
And not be able to prove that he was,
that's right.
And just for the owners, and you only get those horses once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'd get another chance, but they don't come along that often, and when you got them too, and it was really disappointing.
We've mentioned some of your great horses. Have I missed one? Whether it be Serrera, who was tough and still winning races at 9, or Mr. Baritone, or is there one that also has a special place in your heart?
Look, those sort of horses, when you sit back and aim them at the races, and then you're getting halfway through a preparation and you think, geez, maybe we're mad, but we look, with Serrera we kept right to our target.
Yeah.
We worked backwards from the Queen Elizabeth, worked out how many runs he usually took to be at his best, studied the weather forecast that said it was going to be wet. It was the driest day of the carnival, as it turned out. But look, and some of the owners were starting to doubt us too, and we said, no, we're sticking to our plan, we're going to run. and he got up at 70 or 80 to 1 or something like that.
He's 150s into about 70s. Did you have a little...
Well, I actually let him back in after the race because there wasn't one owner there.
Really?
They'd gone to watch Mr. Baritone in the Gold Coast, which they thought was a winning chance, and they couldn't see that Serrera was. So I ended up having to lead him back to scale afterwards, and I was really thrilled with that because we had put a lot of planning into it. And then Mr. Baritone, same thing. We decided that was the race we were aiming at, and I almost changed my mind and didn't run him. And it was Anthony, my racing manager, talked me round. He said, "No, that's what we've aimed him at. Just run him."
Yeah.
And so we did, and of course he came out and won. So
to win a Group 1 with him was fantastic. Tell us about your relationship with your brother Paul. Obviously, you've been together a long time. Do you have a little sibling rivalry? Are you best of mates? I mean, all brothers are different. Yeah,
quite interesting that. Well, we were brought up 2 years, 2 days between us. We were always fierce rivals, but great respect for each other. And he actually worked for O'Sullivan's when I was foreman there.
Yep.
He went a different way and ended up being a racing reporter and the Waikato Times, New Zealand Herald and that. And then he started a bloodstock company, decided that he would, he wanted to really be involved in that part of it. And through our vet Jim Marks, who had been Dave O'Sullivan's vet while I was there and become a really close friend, he sort of took us around the yearling sales and showed us what he looked at. And he got that from basically, he was swabbing all the winners. And in New Zealand, because of the variety of tracks, we had so many wet tracks and dry tracks, and he sort of taught us what they could get away with if they on wet ground and what they needed to be like physically for the hard ground and that sort of thing. So he took Paul and I around, and then I got busy training, and Paul decided to run down that path and keep going with Jim, and started doing the buying, and was very successful at it. He had a real eye for it. And I think he's bought 50-odd individual Group 1 winners. Some I haven't trained. But of the 47 or 48 I've trained, I think he's probably bought or had something to do with probably 3/4 of them anyway. So, got a great eye. And we always joke with each other now. He tells me that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be training with Group 1 winners, and I tell him if it wasn't for my training, he wouldn't be buying them all.
Exactly.
So we have a little bit of a rivalry there now and again.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then you got the family business continues because Alicia, your daughter's officially listed as your business manager, public relations manager, based in New Zealand. So you're going to hand the keys over to her eventually?
Yeah, look, it's going to be an exciting part for me now because I wouldn't say I've lost interest in New Zealand racing. I try and follow it still. I've got a stable there, but I don't spend a lot of time there. And look, my daughter Alicia has decided after we sent her to boarding school and right away from racing that she's found her way back. And she started off by being the face of racing and for Tirapa.
She obviously takes after her mum.
Must do, certainly. And sort of gotten, and I remember having a talk to her about it, and she said, "Look, Dad, I just want to put something back into racing because our family's been lucky in racing." And at that stage, she'd also announced to me that she was going out with Chad Ormsby, who was one of the leading jockeys in New Zealand, and they bought a property together. And Chad wants to throw the riding in. He just can't keep his weight down any longer. He's probably Stephen Arnold's size.
Right, okay.
And that's so he's decided he wants to train, and Alicia's going to sort of back him there, and he'll go into partnership with me. And that's really going to be interesting for me to have the next generation. I sort of kept the property there when at times I probably financially should have sold it. It was worth a lot more money than what it is now. At times where I decided, no, I'd be a little bit pig-headed, a bit of Irish coming out in me, and that I kept the property and kept it going, and always thought that either Paul's family or my sister Sue's family, they ever wanted to do anything with horses, that the property would be there for them. And so it's going to be great to see that the next generation is going to, is going to take it on, and it's going to be, it's going to sort of enthuse me again for New Zealand racing a wee bit, I think, because I really think he's a very good horseman, and I think he's the right sort of person. They're young, and New Zealand racing is going through a bit tough times at the moment, but they know that, and they're enthusiastic and want to give it a go.
This program proudly brought to you by Centrebet. No other bookie offers a tote guarantee on your fixed odds bets.